Hey everyone! I have some quick housekeeping things before we begin today. So, at the end of today's episode, we are going to say that we have something special up our sleeve for next time. What we failed to mention is that next time is going to be in not 2, but 4 weeks. I know that's a long time to wait for an episode, and we really agonized over this decision, but we've just both been so busy lately and we have some end of summer vacations coming up. So, this is what we think is going to work best for our schedules and how we feel we'll be able to give you the best possible content. When we come back from our little hiatus, we're going to have a couple spin off episodes for you before we dive into our next book, which, in case you missed it in our sneaky announcement in our last episode, is Mansfield Park. But until then, please enjoy this week's episode covering Austenland. In the book, she says she's gonna report. Wait, I watched them out of order.
You did.
Hang on.
No.
Wait.
We can cut that.
Yeah, in the book, she doesn't say anything about
No,
it.
in the book,
And
she
you're
says,
so right. Say
she
what you
says,
said again.
okay.
I forgot. I did it out of
You
order.
did it out of order, so it's totally fine. This is Becca.
This is Molly.
We are here to talk about Jane Austen-ish.
We are here specifically to talk about Austenland.
Austenland. That's only a one episode experience, guys. I'm sorry. We're only covering it for one episode. Listeners, if you're new here, I, Becca, have read many Jane Austen novels, watched many adaptations of her work, and read some, Jane Austen adjacent content in my time.
And I, Molly, am diving into all of that for the first time through this podcast.
If you want to hear Molly read through Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, Emma, or Persuasion for the first time, you can listen to seasons 1, 2, 3, and 4 of this podcast, respectively. But that is not what we're doing here today.
No, today we are talking about Austenland, both the book and the film.
Really quick side note, now that that's gotten so long, I had to use my opera breath, and I'm very proud of myself.
Can you imagine? Soon you're going to have to say that same thing at the beginning of every episode, and you're going to get through all 4 of them.
Yes, and then we'll man's that field park.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Listeners, we're talking about something that has been at the back of our mind, I think, for 5-6 years at this point.
Yeah, this is content that has been floated to us in many different iterations for a long time, and it's been a delight to visit it. And we're doing this sort of in the vein of, quote, book club. So today we're talking about both the book Austenland by Shannon Hale and the movie that was directed by who, Molly?
Jerusha Hess.
Jerusha Hess, and it came out in, this blew my mind, 2013.
Yes, on August 23rd, 2013, which is almost 12 years ago.
I thought when I was watching this movie, I was watching something from straight up like 2002.
No, yeah, it's very recent. It's actually it is 6 years post Waitress for Carrie Russell.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I would never have guessed that.
Me either.
Well, good for Carrie. She has tons of range. So getting into it, obviously, Carrie Russell stars in this movie with our boy, J.J. Field, who I know from the television series Turn on AMC.
Never heard of it.
It takes place in Revolutionary War New York and essentially is about Washington's network of spies trying to get information out of loyalist New York. And he plays John Andre, who is a famous British spy who ran British intelligence for the Revolutionary War. And he is extremely sexy on that show.
He is also extremely sexy in this.
He's very sexy. We'll get into it. It's a whole thing. And so we have a lot to cover here because we're covering both a book and a movie. We're just going to go kind of loose and have some fun with it. But obviously, we're really excited to cover it. And it's been really fun so far.
Yeah, we're really excited to talk about this. So, Becca, what is your relationship to Austenland?
Oh, that's such a good question. Thank you for asking, Molly.
You're so welcome.
My relationship to Austenland is that I have been a Jane Austen fan for a very long time, which means I have been exposed to lots of Austen adjacent content in my time. And I have not always explored the most adjacent of the adjacent content, even when it's really popular. I have a couple times, and we'll go through it when we get there. But this is one I hadn't touched before. But I knew it existed, and I kind of vaguely knew the plot a little bit. And so that's my relationship with it so far.
My relationship with it is that I thought It was the same thing as Lost in Austin?
See, Lost in Austin is one I actually did watch, so I can speak to that on its own.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah. Well, I had heard bad things about Lost in Austin, and I was telling people that we were covering Austenland, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, I'm so excited for that. I love that one." And I'm like, "What? Where's the cognitive disconnect that's happening here?" And then I realized they're two different things.
they both have the element of I am a modern day woman obsessed with Jane Austen's work, and here is a story of me reflecting upon that.
Yeah, it's just weird that there are two
There's more.
more.
Yeah, I mean, I can't immediately name them all off the top of my head, but it is a genre,
Sure.
unto itself.
I guess there's just this element of being an Austen fan where there's the nostalgia of it, like, you want to visit that time period and do those things, and
You know, at its core, there's some really cheesy content, there's some really fun content in this vein. If I'm gonna be intellectual about it and what it is, it's a different kind of story than a Jane Austen story
yeah.
because what it is exploring is not Regency era England or, these rom-coms that were so formative to the rom-coms we tell today. It's exploring why women to this day love Jane Austen's work. It's exploring what that psychology is, which ultimately makes it kind of meta that we're talking about it on the show because I'm bringing you into understanding why people love Jane Austen.
Yeah.
So that's how I kind of see the content. It's about the exploring why the modern woman loves Jane.
Yeah.
And as a critique, I will say a lot of the time they usually go the romance route, not the class route for
Yeah.
why we love Jane. But if we're being honest, there is like a comfort coziness to the love stories Jane Austen tells, and the men are very dreamy. So I think it's interesting and cool to sort of explore why her work still resonates with women nowadays. And I think the book in particular here, but the movie too, did a really good job of talking about that. And we'll get into that.
Yeah, I think so too. Before we dive into talking about it though, would you go to Austenland?
Okay, so, here I'm gonna say spoilers for, the book and the
Oh
movie.
yeah, there's gonna be spoilers galore.
Yeah, so we haven't done any yet, but I am starting the spoilers now because it forms my answer to this question. I would absolutely not go to Austenland in the book or movie, like, the way it is what during the story.
Yes.
I would absolutely, like, no questions asked, go to the one that Jennifer Coolidge makes at the end of the film.
Yes.
That looks so fun.
Hell yeah. I think that that's what I would be hoping for when I sign up for Austenland. However, I would 100% go to Austenland regardless.
Okay, I will explain why I would not go to
Listen,
Austenland.
I understand why. I mean, they make it seem like kind of a terrible place, but
Like,
explain.
I mean, okay, so we'll get into it. But the thing about Austenland that's so funny to me is like there is certainly like a beautiful element of fantasy to it, and I love the like Regency era, like them wanting to go into the Regency era in a sort of real way. But first of all, I think the book is telling you she's not having that much fun
Yes.
at Austenland.
Yeah, she's miserable.
She's like clawing at the walls bored with the Regency era lifestyle, and she is kind of like off put by the men that are pretending to care for her.
Yeah.
But I think that for me, it's the customer service.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Yeah, no, I think that you're so right because it's run by terrible people who are kind of doing terrible things.
And like at the beginning of the book, they establish that she's not quite as like wealthy as some of their other like their other
Clientele.
customers. Yeah.
Yeah, well, in the
But
book, she is gifted the trip, whereas in the movie, she spends her entire life savings on it.
yeah, and that's another thing we'll get into. But I think that like just the idea, even if this woman isn't going to come back. She's paid so much money to go to this resort experience that why the entire time are they just fucking rude to her? Like it's
Yeah.
crazy to me.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with you that I would not go to the Austenland of the book or movie, but the concept of Austenland, if we take out the weirdness of paying actors to fall in love with you,
Which we'll get
which
to.
we'll get to,
Um
I would pay money to go to an all-inclusive resort where we pretend to be in the 1800s.
That I would absolutely do, 100%. I
Like,
would
full meals, like, fancy balls, give me all of that
yeah.
for a week, but, like, without the plot
If
lines.
if you, Mike, Mel, and I took a little, like, foray to a resort where we had to do Regency era dress up and, like, eat Regency era food and, like, cross stitch and, like, read books, I would have a ball.
And Mel and I would have to pretend like we would actually form our own plot line of, like, forbidden love.
You'd be the Anne de Berg to her Charlotte.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, so I would 100% do that. I don't wanna go, like, pay for a man to pretend to be in love with me, for sure.
Yeah, and we'll get to it. No shame, no shame,
Absolutely not,
but
yeah.
in this particular, like, iteration as it exists in this story,
Yeah.
absolutely not. I
Well, they
would
don't make it sound
they
appealing.
do not make it sound appealing, but I do wanna go to Jennifer Coolidge's, like, theme park Austenland at the end where you, like, can, like, get Austen-themed cupcakes and Austen-themed shirts and go on Austen-themed rides. That seems fun, and someone should do it.
Absolutely. But setting that aside, if you did go to Austenland in
Yes.
this story, which storyline, which plot do you think you would be assigned by Mrs. Wattlesbrook?
I'm gonna clock myself so hard here.
Do it.
No question, I would have been on the Martin track. Like, not even close. I am such a Ben and Leslie are the best love story of all times
Yeah.
girly. I love a down-to-earth love.
Mm,
Like, that is, like, my fantasy, and it always has been. It's why I love Emma and Knightley as a pair because
yeah.
they're, like, friends to lovers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have been like, "Oh, man, I just can't get behind these, like, bad boys. He's just being rude to me, and I don't need, like, a dashing captain. I just want the sweet gardener to, like, watch basketball with me and drink beer." Like,
Aw.
that would be like, that scene, I was like, "Yeah, that would pull me in."
Yeah, and meanwhile, I was absolutely gushing over Mr. Nobley.
I mean, when JJ Field plays him in the movie, it makes it a little bit more difficult to pick Martin.
Well, but even in the book, I was like, "Oh my god, he's so dreamy, blah, blah, blah." However, like, I don't know if that's what I would be assigned. That's what I, like, would go f I know, I think I would probably go for that. I would go for that. Or Mr. East, Colonel East, Captain
Captain
East.
East?
Captain East. Yeah, I like the
Not Ca
forbidden love.
not Colonel Andrews?
Not gay Colonel
I
Andrews.
mean, I feel like he's a fun time.
He's definitely a fun time, but he has to be reserved for the kind of clueless older woman
Aw.
who I'm not yet. Yeah, no, I definitely find the Nobley storyline the most dreamy and would hope for that, but I could also see myself being assigned the captain who comes back and there's a persuasion element of like, "Oh no, I turned him down the first time."
Yeah, and we'll get into it, but that perfectly done in the film.
So
No
good.
question.
But of course I can't afford to go twice, so maybe I wouldn't be assigned that
No.
storyline.
No, if they were genuinely trying to, like, pull me in and make me fall in love with someone, it would definitely be on the Martin
Oh
track.
yeah, for sure. Well, with that being said, let's give a brief synopsis of the book and an overview of the characters and the tracks.
Yes, yes.
I shall start by reading the book sleeve, the book jacket sleeve thing that is very well written. Jane Hayes is a seemingly normal young New Yorker, but she has a secret. Her obsession with Mr. Darcy, as played by Colin Firth in the BBC adaptation of Pride and Prejudice, is ruining her life. No real man can compare. When a wealthy relative bequeaths her a trip to an English resort catering to Austen crazed women, Jane's fantasies of meeting the perfect Regency era gentleman suddenly become realer than she ever could have imagined. Decked out in empire waist gowns, stripped of her modern appliances, Jane throws herself into mastering Regency etiquette and flirts with gardeners and gentlemen, or maybe even, she suspects, with the actors who are playing with them. Dun dun dun. It's all a game, Jane knows, and yet, the longer she stays, the more her insecurities seem to vanish. Is she about to kick the Austen obsession for good, or could all her dreams actually culminate in a Mr. Darcy of her own?
Yeah, and so then, like, get into the specifics of the book,
Yes.
Jane goes to Austenland,
Mm-hmm.
ends up kind of being torn between having fun flirting with a Darcy equivalent named Mr. Nobley, who's one of the actors there to seduce her,
Mm-hmm.
and then finds herself sort of falling for a gardener who works there named Martin.
Yes.
And so she's torn between this idea of like the Mr. Darcy fantasy and Martin the gardener. And his name's Martin, right?
His name is
Yeah.
Martin, except for his real name is Theodore, maybe, or maybe it's the other way around. His
Yeah.
Theodore is his fake name, and Martin
Well,
is.
we'll certainly get to it. And then as she's there and she and two other women are on sort of the tracks of falling in love with the actors, so to speak, she is trying to kick her Jane Austen habit. Mr. Nobley, the Darcy equivalent, ends up proposing to her and she realizes, oh, what I want is something real. She runs to Martin, makes out with him a bunch, and then as she's leaving, plot twist, turns out Martin is actually an actor. And she was being seduced the way that other women were being seduced by these Regency era guys, which they have on. Apparently, they have Martin on tap for the women staying there who are a little too cynical for the rest of it.
Mhm.
And then she threatens essentially to expose the Austenland experience for what it is. And the woman freaks out, sends Martin after her to the airport. And he's like, no, but I love you for real. But then Mr. Nobley comes and he's chasing after Jane and he goes, no, I'm in love with you for real. And it turns out that Mr. Nobley is so in love with her that he gets on the plane with her and then tells her he wants to be with her for the rest of his life, essentially. And they live happily ever after.
Yeah, or at least he wants to try.
Yeah, he wants to try.
Can I just say, our patrons really got a treat. Our patrons in Sequoia who was with me to watch this
Oh, yeah.
movie, because I was trying so hard to finish the book before the predetermined date that we had set to watch the movie, and I didn't finish. I was 30 pages from the end. Let me tell you what has just happened 30 pages from the end. Nobly has proposed.
Ah!
She has run to Martin. They've confessed their love to each other. Book closed, started the movie.
Oh my god. When you told me you had 30 pages of the book left before watching the movie, I just went, "Oh, okay." And I kind of knew because at that point I'd read the book
Yeah.
and I was like, you are going to have a plot twist at
Yeah,
the
but I had
end."
no idea
A
what was coming.
twist.
Yeah, and the twist to end all twists, honestly, and I was, like, enthralled. I gasped out loud. I was truly did not see that
Yeah.
coming. So that was really fun.
Yeah.
And then I was like, "Oh, I hope it's the same in the book." And it was mostly the same except for instead of getting on the plane with her, he, like, shows up at her house a week later, a month later with her notebook.
We'll get into it, but I feel
Yes.
like the ending is very different in this
Yeah.
and the beginning is very different in this, and most of the middle is the same
Yeah,
between the book and the
exactly.
movie.
Mhm. So let's do a quick overview of all of the main players outside of Jane.
Mhm.
Well, we can start with Jane, actually. So Jane in the book is this, like, Austen obsessed woman who is letting it stop her from living her life.
I wouldn't necessarily. I think that's probably more movie Jane.
I think that movie Jane has a lot more agency and, like, takes over her own story
Oh,
comparatively.
this is really interesting. I thought Book Jane had more agency.
Ooh,
Um, so,
fun.
so listeners, I think if you want to compare and contrast the two, here's how I would put it.
Mhm.
You have Book Jane, who at the time we meet her, her life is spiraling a bit out of control. She can't make any romance work for her. And her only comfort is that she keeps revisiting her old DVDs of the 1995 Pride and Prejudice, which same girl, and ends up getting basically her great aunt right before she dies sees that this is an obsession of Jane's and that she always is going back to this movie and basically says, "Yeah, Mr. Darcy's a fantasy, but and you shouldn't feel afraid of wanting that, but you should want something real." And then when her aunt dies, she leaves her a massive luxurious trip to Austenland, and I thought, she's going on this trip, she's like sort of um questioning it, but I thought the book was like a really interesting exploration of how hard it is to find love in this era,
Mhm.
and that being one of the reasons that women feel the need to go to Jane Austen's world, where the love has this sort of set language to figure out, but that the emotions all seem the same as what we feel nowadays.
Yeah.
And that at the end of the day, in these Austen novels, these men are all falling in love with these women's minds.
Right.
And that being something that, like, you crave in this day and age. So that's how I see Book Jane. And then movie Jane is also like I think of her as a little bit more awkward and very dorky in a sweet way about Jane Austen love and Jane Austen content. But for her, it's like, oh God, I gotta kick this obsession with Mr. Darcy. I gotta kick this obsession. So I'm just gonna spend all my savings and just like have the most fun possible in Jane Austen's world. But it wasn't as clearly like she was like, "I'm ambivalent about this, and I'm going because it's free, but also, like, maybe this is the time I can leave Mr. Darcy behind and, like, actually move on with my life and accept what real love actually looks like."
Yeah, I think I would have liked a combination of the 2 because I think that in the movie, there's no great aunt
Mhm.
Carolyn to gift this to her, so she's made the choice to do it herself,
Yeah.
and it's like it's something that she really wants to do because she thinks that, like, all of her life has led her to, like, doing this thing that then she can stop daydreaming about it. Or we could even see the movie as, like, her just wanting to fully immerse herself in this thing that she
Yeah,
loves,
exactly.
versus the book, which is everything that you said, I think. I think being inside of Jane's head in the book made me a little bit annoyed with her because she was constantly being like, "I'm gonna kick this. I'm gonna go with the gardener, but, oh, but isn't Mr. Darcy dreamy? Oh, I'm going to blah, 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 blah." But and then I was like, "Well, how is being here actually helping you kick your obsession? Isn't it making it worse because you're still wanting to have the big romance." I thought it was wonderfully done, and
Oh,
I think
yeah.
it was super interesting to dive into, but I think the main thing that I was thinking about Jane in the movie having more agency is her being like, "I love this thing, and I wanna do this for me," and rather than having someone throw her in.
Yeah, no, I think that it's a matter of I think as a character, you're right, Jane in the movie is a little less annoying,
Mhm.
and she's definitely is she is just a person who really likes Jane Austen, and she's like, "I just I'm obsessed, but I wanna go, like, enjoy like, I have this time to go enjoy being in Jane Austen's world. That's gonna be my chance to live like they did in the Austen times."
Right.
Whereas in the book, I think you see her more as a modern woman struggling and being like, "You know what? I've tried everything else. What do I have to lose?"
Yeah.
Essentially.
I loved both characters. They were just very different. Then we've got our 3 gentlemen at the estate.
Yes.
Colonel Andrews,
Mhm.
who is the flamboyant colonel who ends up with Miss,
Charming.
Charming,
Just charming, my favorite
who
character.
is written for Jennifer Coolidge.
I
Just perfect.
Miss so just to take a step back, Miss Charming is, Jane's companion for large portions of the book. She is also a guest at Austenland. She is an elder woman of buxom nature who is wanting to get her hands all up on some Mr. Darcy type creatures.
Who has no idea in the movie says the line,
Oh, d that's my
"Oh,
funniest
that's your
line.
favorite line?" I shall save it.
Yeah.
She is so funny, and she's putting on this terrible British accent the whole time, in the book as well, and I love her, and Colonel Andrews is gay, and everyone knows that he's gay, but Miss Charming is still taken with him
It's
and
perfect.
thinks it's real. She does think it's real.
Which is again,
Sad.
it's an interesting theme park, I'll tell you that
It
much.
is.
And then you have, our guy, Captain East,
Captain
and,
East,
what's the name of the girly pop who,
Miss Hartright.
Miss Hartright. So,
Amelia Hartright.
Emilia Hartright
Who
is
is played so differently in the movie from how I pictured her in the book.
absolutely but the actress is very familiar to me. I think I know her from Merlin. I
Classic.
think I know her from Merlin.
A Becca line if there ever was one. Georgia King.
Yes! I do know her from Merlin.
Incredible.
Ladies, if you know, you know. She's definitely like not a huge character in Merlin, but she's much more featured. Like, so it's not I'm not crazy for flagging that's where she's from.
Princess Elena.
Yep. She's funny.
Very funny. But in the book, she is this like perfect, sweet kind of mystery woman who shows up a little bit late and is staying not in the main house and she's staying with her grandmother or something. And I couldn't tell if she was a paying customer at first or a like
Yeah.
actor to push the story forward, but she's like perfect and all the men love her. And then when Captain East shows up, she's like, Captain East. And it turns out that he proposed to her last year and she said no because her father told her she wasn't allowed. And she didn't tell him that he did that. And so he thought she just didn't want him and he left. And then when he came back, of course, she's still in love with him, and it's very persuasion.
Very persuasion coded.
In the book, was he a soap opera star?
I don't think so, but I was obsessed with it.
It was so good. It was a soap opera where in the movie, where he's basically on Love Island, and he's, like,
Yep.
shirtless the whole time, and
I also think I know this actor too, actually. Let me look this up really quick. Um, yeah, I do know this actor. He was on The 100
incredible.
and in American Gods. Yeah, he's very hot. He's like extremely handsome, and I loved the way they characterized Captain East in the movie as just kind of like a swashbuckling. He looks more like the like star of a
He's a
spicy
pirate.
romance novel than he does a Jane Austen novel, and it's perfect.
Yeah, it's so good, and that's, like, the guy that they show everyone to be like, "You should come to Austenland."
And he's very hot, so I
Yes.
understand. So I think we've covered the, like, the clientele and the actors. I do think obviously there's Mr. Tuttle
I guess we talked about Martin already.
and RIP to their companion actress in the book who does not make it into the film.
Oh, are you talking about Aunt Saffronia and
Yeah,
Sir Templeton?
yeah.
You said Tuttle.
I meant to say Templeton.
I was like, "Who's Mr.
I'm
Tuttle?"
talking about Aunt Sophronia and Mr. Templeton.
Yes, so Aunt Saffronia and Sir Templeton are the kind of, like, mistress and master of the house in the book, and in the movie, they combine Mrs. Wattlesbrook and Aunt Saffronia into one and
Mhm.
have Mrs. Wattlesbrook kind of overseeing everything versus in the book where
Yeah.
she's just, like, in the background.
And also, I know it's Hollywood, but I was expecting Mrs. Wattlesbrook to be way less hot than she is in the movie.
Well, that's why my mouth just dropped open, and because I was looking at the cast, and I saw Jane Seymour, who plays Mrs. Wattlesbrook, and I was like, "Wait, she's so hot."
She's so pretty.
Stunning.
Stunning.
And then we've got, of course, Sir Templeton, who sucks and is the one who
Kind of.
assaults Jane.
Yeah, that was quite a moment in the book. So basically, he's drunk at the, like, thing, which, by the way, if you're an actor, you shouldn't be.
But they constantly are. I mean, it's basically like we're on
Reality
reality
TV where
TV,
they
yeah,
keep him drunk the whole time. But he kind of cops a feel on Jane and she hits him in the nuts.
which is a badass moment.
And Mr. Nobley sees it and comes running for her.
But, like, the fact that they just kind of, quote, unquote, "send him off to, like, go see a doctor" and don't stop the whole ordeal.
I have a thing about when stories have moments of sexual violence in them that are not necessary for the plot, where I'm like, I don't need that. And it's also kind of uncomfortable that you've put me into this place because now it's like, now it's not a safe place for her to be.
Right.
But I do like that she defended herself and that, they did kick him off immediately.
Yeah, I think it did kind of serve a purpose. I didn't like it, but I think it served a purpose in that, like, it made it clear that the whole Austenland thing is a little sinister and they're not actually trying to create a good environment for the people who paid
Yeah.
them money to be there.
I thought it worked a lot better in the movie than it did in the book because in the book, it kind of just happens and then we move on with the story. But in the movie, it comes back later because then at the end, she tells Lady Wattlesbrook or whatever, Mrs. Wattlesbrook, that she is going to report her for the sexual assault that it was attempted on her property, essentially. And that sends Mrs. Wattlesbrook into a tailspin. Whereas in the book, she's just like, I'm a journalist. I'm going to write a bad review for Austenland, which, like,
Isn't really enough to
yeah, doesn't really have teeth generally, so it was weird, but I did like the way they changed that for the movie. I thought that made sense and made it serve a purpose, and so
Yes,
I think it worked better there, but I could have lived without that in the
totally.
story.
And then we already talked a little bit about Martin, but just to reiterate, he's a gardener who we think isn't an actor, but then he is an actor.
And he's played by the guy from Flight of the Conchords,
Oh yeah, and he is.
who is really hot. And when JJ Field and the guy from Flight of the Conchords were fighting over Carrie Russell, I was like, "Oh, who would I choose?"
I would 8,922% always choose JJ Field.
I would choose JJ Field as well.
No offense to Brett McKenzie, but it's something about his sweet baby eyes.
He's got those, like, searing blue eyes and, like,
Yeah.
dimples that's like
The dimples, he's got a softer face, whereas Brett McKenzie's very much like got the bad boy suave, like
which is funny because he's like a Flight of the Conchords comedian.
right. And I also knowing that was just like I don't know like how to think of him as hot. but, like, I'm looking at a picture of him, he very clearly is,
He's
but, like,
very hot, he's
he
very
just
hot,
yeah.
but you can tell they're not planning on making him the main love interest, especially when they put JJ Field in the Mr. Nobley role, because we didn't talk about him yet, but Mr. Nobley, basically Mr. Darcy, and JJ Field is so handsome. I think he looks a lot like Tom Hiddleston, but, like, hotter.
Yeah, no, he totally does.
He's so engaging, it's so good looking. He makes this movie sing himself, and I actually think, like, from my perspective, I was actually kind of, like, surprised by the Martin twist at the end because I didn't know exactly where the story was going with this, and
Mhm.
I was so drawn in, just like Jane, by that, like, basketball scene and the beer and the cookies. Like, I just like, that to me is so enticing.
I'm I'm so this is so funny to me and so exciting because
It's the
throughout
first time it's happened with the 2 of us.
yes, throughout the book, I was like, I feel like I'm supposed to be rooting for Martin, but I can't help but think that like the Mr. Darcy character is a more appealing option. And I was like rooting for Mr. Nobley the entire time through the book and thinking like I might be wrong for this, but I am into that. And then to find out I was right, it was so vindicating. I was so happy.
I am so proud of you.
Thank you.
The student has become the master. Yeah, I had the opposite experience where like it wasn't that I didn't think there would be a twist against Martin at the end,
Mhm.
especially and this is kind of where casting ruined things. I knew JJ Field played Mr. Nobley in Austenland. And I was like, well, I think she ends up with that guy.
Mm,
Um
sure.
but while the love story that was being written between Martin and Jane like drew me in. So I felt really betrayed when he was an actor. And I will say that felt so much more violating than the Mr. Nobley part of it because like if you walk into Austenland and you know you're going to be interacting with a Mr. Darcy type and he's going to be an actor, it's weird in some ways, but like you know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
You know what's real and what's not. It is outrageous to make a woman think that a guy is falling for her only to have him be an actor and not tell her until the end of the excursion.
Exactly. And I think what the book is getting at in the end, or like the conundrum that it presents us with, is like she wants something real. She thinks she's getting something real and it's actually fake. And the thing that she thought was fake is what's
Was real.
real.
Exactly.
And I don't know what the lesson is, but it's a very fun story device.
I think it's like a little bit like I mean, some of it's just like it's a rom-com. You want to end up with Mr. Darcy at the end. But at the same time, there is something to be said of like, don't like talk yourself into what you don't want.
That's yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah,
Like,
yeah. Exactly.
yeah,
She's wanted Mr. Darcy her whole life, and then she's like, "No, I want something else," and she's trying to go for that, and it turns out her love for Mr. Darcy was actually what what she gets in the end.
exactly. This is a never settle sort of thing. Like,
Yeah.
so to me, it's like, oh, she spent so long being treated like garbage by men and having these like expectations and everything. And she's giving a chance to everyone. At the end of the day, what she wanted was what was right for her,
Yeah.
which isn't always the case. But
Yeah.
in this story, I do like it as this idea of like, no, don't try to convince yourself you should go for something that isn't right for you because you think it's probably more appropriate. Like, follow your heart.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think the book and the movie both do a really
Yeah.
good job of getting that across. And there's so much to talk about with this. I really loved it.
I had so much fun. We haven't even said that yet. Like,
Yeah.
it was a silly, silly little story that I loved living in because I had so much fun with it. And like, it had, as I've kind of like pointed out, it had some really poignant things to discuss
Mhm.
that were kind of enveloped in this like fun little story about this woman in this like Regency era theme park, essentially.
Yeah.
One thing we haven't discussed. So, the way this theme park operates is that these women come, they get in Regency era dress and pretend to be Regency era women. And there are actors hired to fall in love with them and kiss them and make out with them and propose to them and like shower affections on them. I think that Austenland is making its money off of sex work. And I kind of said this to Molly when before she watched the movie, and she was like, "I don't totally get what you mean by this." And I really think it's like Obviously, no one's having sex with the guys there, but they are, she Jane gets pretty hot and heavy with Martin for a while. Like they do feel each other up, they do make out, and these women are like asking for more affection, more kissing, more like loving, more like holding from these men. These men are not just actors, they're getting paid to, kiss people and like, feel people up and everything. That to me strikes me as sex work, which is fine. It's totally fair. But the way it's kind of like presented here is like kind of shoving that under the rug.
It's towing the line, and I think when you said that to me, it was before I knew about the twist,
Mm.
and a lot of I like the premise when they go into Austenland, they're like, "Remember, like, follow the Regency era standards, don't touch anyone more than that, like, follow all the rules," and Jane thinks she's breaking the rules by making out with Martin, and that's, like, not part of the whole thing, but he is
Yep.
being paid to do that.
Yep.
So, like, you're 100% right, and I think that it's kind of intentionally towing the line, and that's kind of what I was talking about with it being a little sinister, because if it's
All
like a
consensual.
right, if I mean, and it is consensual because they're paying to be there and the actors
There's something a little non-consensual though about the Jane and Martin plotline because Jane doesn't have all the facts.
that's not consensual.
Exactly. People can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
I really believe that like that people really should be allowed to do whatever they want with whomever they want as long as both parties have all the facts from the outset
Yeah.
and both consent to every single thing.
Yes, and I guess same goes for with Mr. Nobley. She thinks that they are having fun and uh flirting in a fake way and he's really falling in love with her.
Well, that's fine, I
It's
think.
fine, but then when it comes down to it in the end, he's trying to get her to say yes to him and she doesn't know what's real anymore and it's actually like causes a lot of problems for her.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it struck me most when Miss Charming puts in a complaint to corporate about not getting enough attention from the men.
Oh yeah.
That was really the one where I was like, "Ooh, so they have to get a talking to like, lavish this woman more?" Like,
You know, actually, and in the movie, there's that scene where she's, like, going at it on Colonel
Colonel
Andrews,
Andrews,
and
yeah.
he's, like, really upset, and she says, "I didn't think I was touching you inappropriately," and he says, "And well, you were, and if we're gonna make this work, then you can't." Because he doesn't wanna touch her like that at all because he's gay.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, there is something really weird about the whole setup here. I think, like, the idea of, like, setting up a fantasy for women that does involve, like, a bit of sex work, I'm not judging that. If that is what floats your boat, that's fine. But I feel like there is a lack of honesty about it in this place that is problematic.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and also, again, specifically with Jane in the book who didn't ask to be there.
Exactly.
Like, she could have not gone, but she wouldn't get any inheritance
Yeah.
otherwise.
And just to round this piece of this out, I feel like when I first heard about Austenland, like, for years, I've just assumed it is a theme park where people go and pretend they're in Regency era, which I thought sounded fun.
And then, like, maybe fall in love with people who are there.
Exactly. So, like, I was, like, in my head when I started reading the book, I was like, "Ooh, what's the how are they going to have enough men who are into Jane Austen enough to be involved like this?" And then I was like, "Oh, fuck, wait, they're paid to be there for these women." And
Yeah.
that's the conceit of the park. Very interesting.
Yeah. And that's the part of it that I personally would not choose to attend. I would choose to attend the one where everybody is there because they want to be there as a guest and flirt at balls and like like a Regency era
Yeah.
reality television show.
If you, Mel, and Mike, and I ended up in Regency era England, and we're just eating, like, tea and crumpets and, like,
I love
playing
crumpets.
piano and, like, singing and, like, reading books and lounging
Playing
about
whist.
playing whist, lying about, like, in a beautiful manor home for, like, a week or so. I think we'd have fun. I feel like we'd have to drag our partners along.
Oh,
Um,
Mel would not be caught dead in any kind of stays and, like, petticoats.
Mike would be so itchy in the fucking coats and the
Our
britches.
partners and their sensory
They're, like,
problems.
really not gonna have fun, but we would have a good
We would
time,
have a great
and we would
time.
look so good in those Empire
We would
waist
look
dresses.
adorable.
So good, but I digress. Anyway,
Before we get into, like, things we didn't like and things that we loved, let's talk about a couple more differences between the book and the film.
yeah, we touched on what I thought was the biggest difference, which was Jane's making her way to the park. It changes the story so much.
Totally.
Because in the book, it's a fish out of water, sort of like, I didn't ask to be here and here I am sort of situation where she's like questioning everything the whole time. Whereas in the movie, she's really trying hard to
She's
get it
trying
right.
so hard.
And
You're so right.
so that was a huge difference for how the book was set up because I think it changes the story quite a lot.
Absolutely.
Is she choosing to be in Austenland, or is this something that was bestowed upon her?
And she's like, "Oh, do I have to change who I am?" Because that's what her great aunt is implying, like, "Get this out of your system."
I think her great aunt is giving her the love story she wants, actually. I think it's
Mm.
really like, I think the great aunt is the hero of the book.
Well, I think that she gets the love story she wants in the end, but I think that she doesn't necessarily think that's what she's getting. She thinks she's getting, like, one last hurrah, but I think you might be right that that's what her great aunt wanted her to have.
Yeah, I think her great aunt wanted her to have a great love story. I took the great aunt as trying to get her out of her shell and like getting her to embrace herself a little bit more.
I like that reading. I think that's better than what I was well, I was kind of, like, reading it through Jane's perspective, which was the whole time she's just like, "This thing about me is weird and a
Mhm.
problem."
Another change from book to movie was the summaries of the ex-boyfriends,
Yes.
each one more horrifying than the last.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
what the part of the way the book accomplishes this, why is Jane so obsessed with Jane Austen, is showing us just how shitty her love life is, which, girl, I understand.
Yeah.
Every time I was like, "Yeah, been there."
Yeah, some of those boys were so mean.
Sometimes boys are very mean. Girls can be
Yeah,
mean too. Everyone can be mean.
everyone can be
But
mean.
I feel like in particular, there is a dynamic where teenage boys can be particularly cruel to teenage girls.
Yeah.
And that really plays out across the story. And like it gives you each snippet. Some of these men are like truly cruel to her.
Yeah, whereas in the movie, what we get is a montage of her kind of, if I'm remembering this correctly, her, like, watching Pride and Prejudice through all of her relationships and not really giving all of her attention to the actual man.
Yeah, like in the book, I mean, we'll talk about this. In the movie, it's more like these guys are leaving her because she won't pay them enough attention because she's too obsessed with Jane Austen and Mr. Darcy.
Yeah.
There is a scene where you meet her ex and he seems to really suck in
Yeah.
her office cubicle.
Oh, yeah.
Again, smarminess we don't need to see, but yeah, that didn't accomplish the same thing in my brain as the book, but it wasn't a part of the story in the same way. It was an adaptation and they weren't really bringing that part of it as much in.
Yeah, well, I think that the book was more a commentary, like you were saying, and the
Mhm.
movie's more of a rom-com where we're just
Yeah.
focused on the, like, the love story of it, which I don't mind. They both have their purposes.
I will say one of the most delightful moments is when at the beginning of the movie, one of her ex-boyfriends like punches her like cardboard cutout of Colin Firth. And then when Mr. Nobley shows up at the end and he sees it's kind of done, he like fixes the head and pulls it back up.
Ah!
I was like, he accepts this about
And
her.
he's, like, healing her inner child with that, like, he's healing her inner Mr. Darcy lover because he's literally Mr. Darcy and he's coming to,
Yeah.
like, say, "I'm real."
Yeah, and, so this brings me to my second point. So, I liked the beginning of the book better than I liked the beginning of the movie. I liked the end of the movie better than I liked the end of the book.
Same. Big time.
Yeah. So the biggest difference at the end of both Martin and Mr. Nobley run to Jane in the airport, and both are like, "No, but I'm in love with you for real." And in both cases, she's like, "No, you're an actor and you're trying to save face."
Mhm.
And then she leaves. And in the book, Mr. Nobley gets on the plane with her like a kook and is like, "I've been an actor at, Austenland for a really long time, and I'm sick of doing it, and I'd like to go elsewhere and be an actor, and I think I wanna do that with you." And what I did love in that is that he's, clearly neurotic and overly romantic the way she is,
Yeah.
and it's clear cut in that moment that everyone's like, "Oh, no, this guy is totally, like, right for her."
Yeah.
But the Mr. Nobley of the movie J.J. Fields showing up in, like, New York, I believe.
He shows up
Um,
at her apartment in New York.
this is a huge change for Mr. Nobley in the 2. In the book, he is an actor that has worked for Austenland for years
Mhm.
professionally. He's divorced and had a really bad divorce with a woman who was very mean to him, and Jane gets this information through her journalist friend.
Yes. Whose name
Very
is Molly.
Yes, Molly makes an appearance. I
Yes.
can't believe we have gone this far without, like, talking about Molly, but
I
she's
know.
not really a great character in either.
She's not, she's just kinda there.
She's like a sounding board for
Yeah.
Jane. And then in the movie, he's dreamier in the
In
movie.
the movie, he's Mrs. Wattlesbrook's nephew who has just started working at Austenland because he's a history teacher, and he was like, "I've always wanted to see what it would be like inside this world, and it turns out I don't like doing this. I wanna be with you."
Yeah, he didn't like, I loved him as not having the stomach to do it, and
Yeah.
then, like, I thought that was better for a couple reasons. One, Jane was cool. I didn't totally understand, like, the A to B of, like, her being, like, this really special woman in Austenland who is, like, different from the rest of them, because a lot of these women are gonna be like Jane in Austenland.
Right.
But I did in the movie buy that it's his first roundabout, and she's so delightful and sweet and
And he falls
pretty
in love with
that he
her.
falls in love with
He
her.
can't fake it. And
Exactly.
I love, it's a line that comes from the book and carries through to the movie where he's like, "Please, I've seen you act." Like, cause they do a theatrical.
Yeah.
He's like, she's like, "No, I was acting too. Like, you were acting, I was acting. It's fine. It was all fake." And he's like, "I've seen you act. You can't act. I can't act either. It was all real."
It was so cute. I love that ending scene.
It was
It
great.
really made my heart squeal.
Yeah, I much preferred that to the visual of them making out on a plane for 6 hours, because if I was next to them on that plane, I would have been so upset.
I would have been really mad. And it's, like, not a short flight.
No, it's from London to New York. It's like at least 6, it's like 6 to 8 hours. You can't.
No.
Anyway, so loved the ending of the movie a lot more
Yeah,
than the book.
100%. Other big change, I liked the Jennifer Coolidge as Miss Charming, which is very book accurate, but what wasn't totally book accurate and I liked was they really fleshed out a friendship between Miss Charming and Jane that was really endearing to
It was
watch.
really sweet. Yeah, in the book, I actually pictured her more being friendly with Miss Hartright and like that being the friendship that mattered, but
I think that's the case because in the book, she's judging Miss Charming for being cringe.
yeah, but actually it turns out that Miss Charming's the best.
Yes.
And they did a really good job of carrying that over into the movie and like making their friendship lasting, and
Yeah.
having her come back at the end with Mr. Nobley to the theme park that Miss Charming, because at the end of the movie, Miss Charming buys the place.
Austenland.
Does she do
Yeah.
that in the book too? I can't
No, she
remember.
does not. I will say in both the book and the movie, Miss Charming, little too handsy with the entire staff of Austenland,
Yes.
but I'm gonna chalk that up to the writing and predominantly Miss Charming is such a charming character.
And hence her name.
Yeah. What were other big changes?
You wrote here Martin is the definitive fuckboy.
Yeah, so the book leaves it open as to whether or not Martin did care
Yes.
about Jane.
Yes.
I think the movie shuts that door pretty firmly and says Martin did not care.
Yeah, I think that the book also implied that he did not care, but the movie made him more of an asshole about it.
I thought the book left open the question. I certainly think it's implied that he didn't care, but it's not made certain the same way because she walks away from both of them after fighting over her. And we don't get any of Martin's inner journey. And in the movie, we obviously do get some of Martin's inner journey, and he's clearly an asshole.
Yeah, so in the movie, we actually see the phone call where Mrs. Wattlesbrook asks Martin to go to the airport and like chase her.
Yeah.
But in the book, he just shows up at the airport. And she makes the assumption that Mrs. Wattlesbrook sent him, but you're right that we're not outright told
Yeah.
that. So, yes, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I also wanted to note the phenomenon with this. I guess it's not really a phenomenon, but I feel like most people, from what I've garnered from the internet and our friends, seem to either prefer the film to the book or not even have read the book and have just seen the film. Have you found that also?
Yeah, I think that I didn't know it was a book until we were covering it and it was a book on this podcast. But I liked both. I
Mhm.
had a good time with both. They give different energies, they give different things. They tell kind of the same story,
Yeah.
but the movie is really just a straightforward kind of silly rom-com in
Yeah.
a lot of ways, and it has a handsome lead and a clear story. So it's like it trimmed a lot of the fat off the book that was telling something else.
Yeah, and it also got Kerry Russell and Jennifer Coolidge, so it's like
Yeah.
it was more in the zeitgeist, I think, than the book, which might be a little bit more. Apparently, Shannon Hale is like a YA author, and
I could
so
see that.
this
Yeah.
is a little bit. I mean, it's not like adult by any means, but it's less YA because it's about like a 30 something. So it's a little bit
Yeah.
out of the vein of what she usually writes, and I feel like
Yeah.
got less attention overall.
Certainly, it's a little poppy, but it's certainly a good time. I would definitely, if you're an Austen fan and you wanna have a good time, I definitely recommend.
Yeah. We already talked about things we didn't like. So let's talk about some other things that we loved about it before we go to our closing thoughts.
Mhm.
I've already talked about the fact that I was just really proud of myself for choosing the right man to root for, but I did like that both in the book, both options seemed viable. In the movie, like you said, it's a little bit clearer that Martin's a scumbag
Mhm.
and Nobly's the best. But I like a love story that lets us kind of figure it out for ourselves. And it's almost like what we talked about with, I'm mentioning it again, Persuasion 2022,
They're
where
gonna kill you,
I
Molly.
know that listen, don't murder me. Um, where we talked about how Mr. Elliot was almost a viable option in that because they had good chemistry and he
Yeah,
wasn't actually terrible. Similarly, in this, it kind of makes you root for both of them, so it's fun to see like it's a true twist at the end.
absolutely.
Yeah, so I really loved that.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say, shout out to our dorkier girlies getting their rom-com because Carrie Russell's Jane and the book's Jane, just dorky, like in a way that feels like the dorky women I've met in my life. Like it's built for the women who genuinely do dress up as Jane Austen characters in their free time, which I think is fantastic because those are fantastic women. There are a lot of women like that in our audience, and y'all deserve to have your dorky little love stories because I'm a dork and dorky love stories are the better love stories.
Yeah, dorks for the win.
Dorks for the win. So such a good dorky rom-com. This was really funny. It was just really funny, especially Jennifer Coolidge in the
So
movie.
funny. And also the style of the book, it was so tongue in cheek. And I loved that. Like, if I was reading it and not thinking of it as a satire of sorts, like, I might be like, I'm not sure about the way this is written, but it's actually really hilarious
Oh
and
yeah,
really well done with like the tone and style that she's writing it in.
absolutely. We just had a great time enjoying this content. It's not usually the kind of content we cover on this podcast. We're doing a little bit more of it now.
And we'll probably be doing more of it as we near the end of all of our Jane Austen books, which is not, we still have several more, but
Yeah.
we have a lot of extra content to
Mhm.
cover that isn't the main
Yeah.
six,
Yeah.
five, six,
And
six.
I really do enjoy the story of like women who love Jane Austen getting to see their Jane Austen fantasies come true on screen. It's the
Yeah.
best.
A rom-com for the people.
A rom-com for the dorks. All right. So, favorite line delivery slash funniest quote.
I have a funniest quote from the book and a favorite line delivery from the movie.
Okay.
My funniest quote from the book is actually the dedication, so I'll just read that to you.
Okay.
For Colin Firth, you're a really great guy, but I'm married, so I think we should just be friends.
Love.
Like a great way to start it off.
Yeah, because you just know Shannon Hale like clearly loves herself some Mr. Darcy.
Yeah, and as she should.
Yep, as we all do. Mine is gonna be from the movie. It's when Jade is talking to Miss Charming, Jennifer Coolidge's character, about Colonel Andrews, and she goes, "Miss Charming, you know Colonel Andrews is and then she pauses and she goes, "Perfect for you?" And then Jennifer Coolidge goes, "Oh, really? I thought you were just gonna say that he's gay."
Wait, that's not what I thought you were talking about earlier when I said
Uh,
that she doesn't know, like, and you were like, "Oh, that's my funniest quote." I thought when they first walk in, Jane says, "It's just like Pride and Prejudice," and and Jennifer Coolidge goes, "What's that?" She just doesn't even know what Pride and Prejudice is.
it was so good.
And my funniest quote from her also is they're like all talking around the table about like the military escapades, and she goes, "Did you die?"
You could literally put Jennifer Coolidge in anything and I will watch it. She's so funny.
She's so good.
All right. So, most Austiny element of the story.
Most Austiny element. I think the falling for the person who you think is dishonest, like the part of it that
The Wickham.
no, well, sure, but I think that her ending up with her Mr. Darcy, where it's a little bit weaving in and out, but, like, she thinks that he's just playing Mr. Darcy, and he's, like, confused and aloof, and that's all an act, and actually, like, he is a really nice guy who really likes her, but she ends up falling for the other guy out of spite because she's like, "I don't wanna fall for the Mr. Darcy," and then she does fall for Mr. Darcy. Um, so the parts that are not trying to be Austen, quote, unquote, the parts that happen outside of the Austenland, like, script are the most Austen-y.
Fair. I think, yeah, I think for me, like, when we were watching it, Mike just turned to me and just goes, "So is that guy the Mr. Wickham of the
Mhm,
story?" And I was
mhm.
kinda like, "Yeah, actually, kinda."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in the movie, it's definitely more clear, and when Mr. Nobley is like, I just don't trust that guy. There's just something about him."
Who wins the movie? Or the book?
Mr. Nobley.
Mr. Nobley. I would say book, I'm gonna give it to Jane Austen fans everywhere.
Yeah.
Getting to see that, like, you don't have to settle for less than Mr. Darcy.
Mhm.
And for the movie, JJ Field is Mr. Nobley, and it's
So
not close.
it's not close at all. I mean, yeah.
All right, listeners, that concludes our coverage of Austenland. Thank you for joining us for our quasi book club movie watching scenario. For next time, we have a special treat that we'll give you more information about as it comes up. I promise we're going to get to Mansfield Park soon. But before we do that, we still have a couple little Austen goodies coming your way, sort of separate from our book reads. So until next time, stay proper.
And don't give up on finding your Mr. Darcy. Oh. Pod and Prejudice is edited by Molly Burdick and audio produced by Graham Cook. Our show art is designed by Torrance Brown. Our show is transcribed by SpeechDocs Podcast Transcription. For transcripts and to learn more about our team, check out our website at podandprejudice.com. To keep up with the show, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Pod and Prejudice. If you love what you hear, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/podandprejudice to see how you can support us, or just drop us a rating and a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening.